Welcome to Shannon Talks Yarn, where I am Shannon and I am addicted to yarn and crochet and also pumpkins. I can't get enough this time of year. I just love pumpkin season and I love Thanksgiving. So I had kind of had an idea rolling around in my brain for a while and I decided now is the time to jump on this. If you are clicking on this and watching this, you might be eager to figure out how I made this little pumpkin pie handbag, and I'd be happy to share that with you. If you are interested in that, or if you just like some kind of silly crochet, please stick around. So I made this purse for kind of short-term fun use. There are a few ways you could make it a little bit sturdier, and we will go over those towards the end. So this, obviously, with it being so very themed for one particular time of the year, I really can't think of any other time of the year other than Thanksgiving where we really, get into the pumpkin pie so much. So this is kind of November purse. I used the same pattern for most of this that I did for my bar stool seat covers, and I will have that video linked. When I made that video, my good friend Jessie over at Sweet Moments by Jessie had partnered with me. Jessie did a really great job on a tutorial of how to do front post double crochet in the round, and that's how you make this. I'm going to go ahead and turn my handbag inside out here so you can see what the back side of it looks like. So each of these ribs on the inside is a row, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows of front post double crochet in each of these before I went on to do a row of single crochet. This is what I would kind of call a yarn eater stitch, but seeing as how I only did in essence 10 rows, 9 of the front post, it didn't use that terribly much yarn. I had on hand some of this pumpkin pie yarn from Pound of Love, so I had stocked up on this a couple years back when it was on sale. I don't know if it was discontinued or not, but there's one online that looks very, very similar to this, so it should still be available, but you could use any yarn you want. But since it's a handbag, I do encourage you to use like a stiffer, more workhorse type of yarn. Super Saver would also be great. Any budget yarn that you can find in like a burnt orange type of color. Now for my crust, I had some yarn that I had gotten from the Spin Right factory outlet, and it was just called Tent Sale Worsted. So again, another budget yarn. It is kind of similar to a Karen Simply Soft, but it's just not as soft. And I ordered, I think, like 6 or 9 bags of 6 of this yarn, so I have plenty, and I didn't use that much for the bobble going around. So I would just say, again, use any type of budget yarn in a crust like tan color. And then I used some mill end yarn for this right here, and it's just a 4-weight acrylic as well for my dollop of whipped cream. You could make your dollop smaller. If I was doing this actually in real life, there would be like a 50-50 ratio of pumpkin and Cool Whip. So just use your discretion on how big or small you want this dollop. You could also put 1 dollop in every single slice of the pie, but I don't really think that was necessary. Here is the front, and here is the back of the finished work. So let's get started, and I'm going to throw up some footage of me kind of along the way telling you what I did for this project. So you're going to need to make 2 separate panels for this, and it's quite easy. And I used a slightly smaller hook than the yarn recommended, so I was using a 5mm crochet hook instead of a 5, because again, I wanted this to be a little bit smaller and a little bit tighter of a weave. You could definitely, if you were trying to make these more sturdy, you could definitely use a cotton or some other type of yarn like that. Now as you're going, I started out, I did mine with a magic ring in the middle, but you could very well do like chain 4 and hook those together to make your loop. And then I went ahead and put in, so I made my magic ring, and I chained 3 for my first double crochet, and then I went ahead and did 9 other double crochets and joined that together for my very first section. And you will want to, of course, when this is over, go ahead and tie that and weave that end in, even though you can't really see it. And each of these 9 rows is an increase row. But since we're doing them in tens, it makes it real easy to always know, like, you know, how many stitches should be in that row. The first row should have 10. The second row should have 20, then 30, 40, 50, and so on. So easy math definitely makes it easier to make sure you're not making any mistakes. And what I really love, when you do your front post, your increased stitch makes this really cool line that kind of lifts up higher than the rest of the stitches. I'll bring that up closer here. And to me, I just thought this was perfect because it just kind of gave the appearance or the feeling of slices in it without having to really go in and add extra stitches afterwards or change my yarn color. And of course, on the front side where I put my whipped cream, you know, less of it shows there. Every single time you increase, it is going to make this. So if you see your line starting to deviate or not show up, that is a good indication that you have not put it in the correct spot. So just keep double checking, and those lines should be symmetrically spaced and they should just continue to keep growing. And if this is a stitch you are not familiar with, I will have Jessie's video linked after this because she really takes the time to go through and explain it really well. Like I said, I used this same pattern for some bar stools that I made, but then put some elastic, you know, the end thing was a little bit different. My end result, because my finishing steps were different, but it's just a really great round stitch to do. So definitely check out Jessie's video after this if you want a little help, or if you just want a refresher to make sure that you're doing it right. So once I got my 9 rows, I went ahead and did 1 row of single crochet around the whole edge. So a total of 10 rows going out. And this gave me a really great base to go ahead and put my crust on. So for the crust, I chose bobble stitches, and I really like the texture that this gives. I'm sure there's a number of other crust-like stitches. I had originally thought about a scallop or something like that, but I love bobbles, so that's why I did that. And if you aren't familiar with a bobble, you work the bobble actually on the back sides. So again, at this point, we have not sewn these together, and went ahead and started out with 1 single crochet, bobble, single crochet, bobble, single crochet, bobble, all the way around to the very end. And I think I had my ending spot kind of at the bottom down here, just because I thought if there's any like inconsistency or anything, I'd rather have it at the bottom. And I may have had to put in, yep, I think you can see it here, like 1 extra little stitch right there just to make sure it all completely evened out, which is not a big deal because I didn't want 2 smashed bobbles together. This is a super easy stitch that I think a lot of us enjoy, but if you're not familiar, or if you want a refresher, I reached out to Jessie again since I told her I was going to be using her tutorial and sending people her way, and was like, do you have a bobble stitch on hand? And she did not, but she was actually gracious enough to make up a nice little short tutorial. I have watched it. It is very informative and very helpful. So yeah, I will have that linked as well for you to check out if you want a refresher or an introduction to making a bobble stitch. For reference sake, I do have 45 bobbles going around here, which would mean I also have 45 single crochets, which, you know, adds up to 90, which makes sense. With our 9 rows of increases, we should have 90 front post double crochets. And then when I did the row of single crochet, I just did 1 in every stitch. And I was not doing like front loop, back loop, bleh. I was just doing regular single crochets all the way around, so it would be a good base for my crust. For the next step, I went ahead and attached my 2 panels together. So you want to do this inside out. So I laid my panels out flat, and I kind of just gauged how big I wanted my opening. And what's awesome is, since there's all the little dividing pie lines of the increases, it makes it really easy to eyeball and kind of see where you want things. So I have, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 of my pie lines sectioned out here on top. That leaves 6 down here. So I went ahead and started after each of these lines, and I went through and just single crocheted my edges together. So it does give a little bit of a ridge or a seam, but this is all on the inside. And I just thought that this would end up being a little bit stronger than if I just did like my yarn needle and sewed it up. And again, like I said, this is not going to be a all the time purse. This is just honestly like a fun going shopping, like going to the grocery store to get my Thanksgiving groceries. You know, I'm probably only going to get to wear this out like 2 or 3 times unless I take it to work. And again, I just kind of sew in, you know, your ends or crochet over them, and go ahead and flip this back out. And it's kind of nice too, because by doing that row of crochet, it does give you just a little bit of a flat ridge between your 2 pie sections, and just gives you a little bit more room. Like I said, I'm not going to be using this very often, so it's really just going to be my phone and wallet that go in here, which leads me to the felt. I did decide not to use the felt, but I had it on hand just in case. I had gotten this in a Hobby Lobby haul. I can link that video for you. I'd gotten some random stuff on Halloween, but these felts were only 25 cents a piece. And so, number one, that's 50 cents. That's not a lot of money. I'll keep these on hand in case I want to do like some other little bag or something like that with a lining. But if you wanted to line, what I would say to do is to, before you sew these together, go ahead and trace. And I would probably do this step before I put my bobbles on. And I would just trace with a pen or a marker on here how big my pumpkin is. Cut this out, and then have it, of course, on the wrong side out. And I would go ahead and then just put my circle on, and I would use not my yarn needle, because that won't make it through the felt, but just a regular needle and thread, and some thread that kind of blends in. And I would just sew it in a few places around. I wouldn't stress out too hard. I would say the circles here, you know, I would definitely put one like every couple inches, you know, maybe just like an X stitch or something like that. And then, you know, a couple in, and then in the center is really all I think that would need to do. And I know that you could also use an adhesive and make a few stitches as well if you wanted it to be more secure, or like if you were selling it or something like that and wanted a little bit more. Now for the whipped cream, who doesn't love that the best? Anyway, basically you can do any rosette that you want or that you like. That is just fine. Like, I know Bag a Day has some tutorials, or if you literally just type in like crochet rose, that will give it to you. So what I did for mine was I made a chain of 45. And what I did in the first row, coming back on my chain, I did an increase stitch in every 3rd stitch. So that way it gave me, you know, that's how it gets that shape and kind of flourishes out instead of just being like one straight thing. The first row, I went ahead and did like double crochet, 2 double crochet in 1 stitch, and repeated that. I don't know if it worked out evenly on the end or not. If not, I just threw in an extra one. It really doesn't matter because you can't see that anyway. So then for the next row, I chained 2, and I went back with my double crochet again, and I did every other stitch an increase. So 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 until I got to the end. Then all you do is just roll it up into the little rose shape. You can take a few stitches to kind of put it together first at the bottom, kind of like how you would do when you're seaming up like the top of a beanie like this. It doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be tidy. It just needs to be enough to secure it and keep, like, you don't want, you know, the middle of your rose plopping out or something like that. And then I went ahead and I just stitched it in a few places, and my rosette is pretty big, so I went ahead and, that was exaggerated, but I went ahead and just made a few stitches in here to secure it, and I feel like that is fine. I mean, you want to get kind of further out on it because you don't want it droopy when you're holding it. So then the final step is going to be your purse hardware. So I make a point when I'm at thrift stores to check the area with the purses. I don't go to a lot of like the big chain thrift stores. I know I have seen some really good hauls from Claire at Woodshed Theory for her yarn hauls. And she has a store where she lives in California called Savers, and I don't have anything like that near me. The chain ones around here are just Goodwill and Salvation Army, and I really honestly don't know of a lot of people finding great deals at either one of those stores. So like I said, the smaller private ones I think are better about having this type of stuff and having it at affordable prices. So I had picked up this purse strap, and they were 25 cents each. Like, just swing by that area and they just had it single, and just kind of wrapped up, and it was 25 cents. So there's a couple thrift stores where I always check for those, and you know, just like if it's a neutral color or whatever, I will grab it. I'd probably grab it even if it wasn't though. But I thought this matched good enough. I mean, is it an exact match? Absolutely not. But did it take a heck of a lot less time than crocheting my own strap? Yes, it did. And I just thought this was great too, because if I were to have given this to my daughter, she's quite a bit taller than me, you know, she can put it down further, or, you know, I could bring it up a little bit higher so it fits me in the right place. But I did need to get the hardware for the side. And again, that was from the video I did on Halloween, or I filmed it on Halloween. It came up after that. And I had gotten, ignore the like crappy looking masking tape, but I just wanted to keep these in here. This is the Sewology, and they're D-rings, and it was $1.99. They weren't on sale when I bought them, but I really did not care. You get 8 of them in a little package from Hobby Lobby. And yes, I did put gross looking masking tape on there just to keep them in the package. But they're like a goldish brassy color, so I figured this would go with a lot of the bags. And as you can see, that works out pretty good. So I just knew that I wanted to go a little bit below where the opening to my bag was, because I wanted it, I knew where I wanted it to hang, and where I wanted it to pull at. So I just eyeballed where I wanted that D-ring to go, and then I just used my yarn needle and thread the yarn through there. And I did it a little excessively. I probably wouldn't have needed to put so much on there because, like I said, I'm carrying such little amount of stuff in here. But I thought that would just be extra secure. Why not? It didn't really take that much extra yarn. I had plenty of the yarn. So those are super secure right there. And I absolutely love this. Now, might I get a few giggles wearing it out in public? Yes, I probably will, but I love Thanksgiving. I don't care if that's not cool and somebody makes fun of me. I'm totally fine with that because I just love it. It makes me think of family. My grandma used to have these amazing Thanksgiving dinners, and she worked so hard, and you know, her siblings would come and their kids, and it was just this like monster of a meal, like over 20 some people, and she worked so hard, and it was just amazing, like waiting all year to get to see all these cousins and stuff. So I have very, very fond memories of Thanksgiving, and to me this is just a fun, silly way to share that joy and hopefully make people smile. If you have questions about any of these instructions, please let me know, and I will have both of Jessie's videos linked so that you can learn how to do the front post double crochet in the round and the bobble stitch. Otherwise, this is a pretty easy peasy project because your front post double crochets and your bobbles are really only double crochets. So if this was your very first crochet project, it might be kind of hard. But yeah, if you've done other projects with double crochet, I am confident that you can do this project too. And feel free, if you don't feel like you have the time or the desire to hunt down purse hardware, and I did find some on that Temu website, and I bought a purse off of there. Or not, I didn't buy a purse, I bought a purse handle, and it cost me just under $3. So not terrible, but I like 25 cents better. But either way, if you're wanting something faster, you can just crochet, you know, your own strap in. I would probably do single crochets or like a moss stitch or something like that is probably what I would do to make that. But I just want to say happy Thanksgiving, even though it is not Thanksgiving yet. And I appreciate you guys, and especially those of you who take the time to write down in the comments and just kind of let me know how you're doing and what you're working on, and just share those aspects of your life. I really, really appreciate that. And if this is the first time you are at this channel, I just want to thank you for taking the time and spending the probably 20 minutes or so listening to me ramble about some weird pumpkin pie. I appreciate that so much. If you like just a lot of yarn content and not just hauls, and just, you know, some light tutorials and projects and finished objects and just a bunch of yarn content, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. It really just means a lot to me. So thank you for talking yarn with me. Happy Thanksgiving.